Alrighty, greetings and salutations, everyone. My name is Andrew Kirchhoff, and welcome to our Wednesday night live stream for Week 15 of the 2024 fantasy football season. Over the course of the next hour plus, we're answering any and all fantasy football related questions, whether they are starter sit questions going into tomorrow night's game, this upcoming weekend, or for those of you who are potentially in a situation in which you already have a Week 15 bye and are preparing for Week 16 and beyond, we can also address potentially picking up players for those circumstances, specifically defenses that may have fantastic matchups. Either way, earlier today, we did drop our top 40 wide receiver rankings with Terry McLaurin on the thumbnail. If you guys haven't checked that out, it is live on the channel. Thank you very much. Of course, by the time we get to Sunday morning, I'm sure a lot of those rankings will, I guess, slightly change based on injury reports. Over the course of this week, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, we'll get more and more information regarding players. For example, like Kenneth Walker, Breece Hall not practicing today. Other players like DK Metcalf finally getting a full practice by Wednesday is very much so, I guess, encouraging. It's definitely not a negative going into this week, but obviously the matchup for him, not the greatest. Either way, we're answering any and all questions. If you guys have a question, whether it is via live chat or super chat in order to claim priority, make sure you include your scoring format, half PPR, full PPR standard, whatever context you can provide to make my life easier in terms of answering your question. The more information I have, the more confident a suggestion I can make regarding your questions. Okay, shall we? Let's get into it. First question of the day comes in from Sharps JD. Sharps, thank you very much. It says PPR, if active, Garenda over Jonathan Taylor. Nope, I would rather play Jonathan Taylor. I mentioned this yesterday, and I'll kind of continue to harp on the idea as we get closer and closer to the Thursday night matchup tomorrow against the Rams. So with Garendo having sustained that injury in the fourth quarter and obviously not returning after, and in the consideration that he's probably not going to participate in practice up until Thursday, my only concern is there a possibility of him re-injuring himself during the game and then exiting? If there's a possibility of that occurring, yes, Garendo playing at a full capacity, 100% healthy, I would prefer to start him over Jonathan Taylor. But considering the circumstance with the injury and all that surrounds it, I don't know if I feel confident enough throwing him out there on on such short week notice. If it was a Sunday game and we could potentially get a Friday practice and some sort of confidence builder, some form of encouragement regarding that, I'd feel more confident going in that direction. But considering this circumstance, I'd rather just play Jonathan Taylor against Denver this week. Thank you. All right, let's see here. Zeke Rodriguez has sent in another super chat. Thank you very much, Zeke. I appreciate it. Says questions in the chat. No problem. Okay, so let's see what we have here, Zeke. Zeke says in a full PPR, pick 2 running backs, 2 wide receivers, and 2 flex. Okay, fantastic. Let's see what we have here. We have Dowdle, Pacheco, Cook, Tracy as our running backs. Okay, we have Jennings, Lamb, McConkey, McLaurin, and Devontae Smith. Cool. So I'm going to eliminate a couple names here that I do not want to play, and then I'll make my suggestions. So don't love the idea of playing that either. So the way that I'd go about it this week, Zeke, I'd suggest that you play at running back, Dowdle and Cook, alongside of wide receivers, Jennings, Lamb, and then in your flex position, play McConkey and McLaurin. So all 4 receivers should start for your team in a full PPR alongside of Dowdle and Dalvin. Or James Cook, man, that one's going to be interesting. The amount of times that I've recorded like a Tuesday running back rankings video and I've said Dalvin Cook, I mean, it's not like they're brothers or anything, but they're almost identical too. Like it's so uncanny, but either way, yes, we're playing Rico and James Cook. Thank you, Zeke. I appreciate it. Fantasy Forecast sends in a question. Thank you, Fantasy. Appreciate it. Says, I have Jalen Hurts, Tua Tagovailoa, Kyron Williams, Montgomery, Chase Brown, Walker, Charbonnet. Wide receivers consist of AJB, Jennings, Nico Collins, Evans, Marvin Harrison. We have Bowers at tight end. I need to start 7. So basically one quarterback, 2 running backs, 2 wide receivers, 1 flex. Okay, so let's say a full PPR need the dub, lost by 0.1 for the bye. That's rough, brother. Okay, Fantasy Forecast. My only question is, because it's not included within the question, so I just want to get a clarification on the matter. Can you start a starting tight end, or would Bowers have to fall into the flex position? Just want clarity on the matter. You don't have to send in anything else. Just send in a question in the live chat, or just a response, in the live chat. Just confirming that. Thank you. Okay, let's see here. Before we continue on, there actually had sent in a question. Actually, thank you very much. All right, actually, let's see. Let's go F3. Actually, it says start 1 wide receiver, 1 flex, full PPR. Neighbors, Waddle, Bucky, Metcalf, Najee, JSN, leading towards JSN and Waddle right now. Worried about Neighbors and Metcalf. I mean, you are preaching to the choir. I am I don't want to play Neighbors with Tommy DeVito. I don't want to do that against the Ravens. I have no interest there. Again, the Ravens are minus 16-point favorites based on Vegas's totals. All the sports books I've looked at, it's a pretty, the margin is quite the distance there. So obviously it's going to be a negative game script for the Giants. They will be throwing for majority of the game. I just don't know if Tommy DeVito is a talented enough quarterback, quite frankly, to keep Neighbors as relevant as your alternative options being Waddle and JSN there. So I lean towards those two. As for Metcalf, I mean, you could theoretically roll with Metcalf, JSN as the combo and just pretty much encapsulate the entire Seahawks, receiving game within two players in order to make sure there's no leakage, which I honestly don't mind that as an idea. But for right now, I'm on the same boat as you with the Waddle JSN approach. Actually, thank you. All right. Did by any chance Fantasy Forecast respond? They did. Okay. It says no. Bowers is the tight end. Bowers is not the flex. Okay. So you do. Yeah. Okay. So I wasn't asking if he's a tight end. I know he's a tight end. I'm asking you if you have a starting tight end position, because within your question it says one quarterback, two running back, two wide receiver, one flex. So under the assumption that we already know that we're starting Bowers at tight end, it wouldn't have needed to be mentioned there. That's the only reason why I'm asking if there's a individual tight end position that would encapsulate Bowers in that spot, or if there is no tight end starting spot, would I have to put him at flex? So under the assumption that there is a tight end spot, assuming that's what the case is, I'll answer as such. If we're starting this roster, I'm going Jalen Hurts at quarterback. The two running backs that I'd prefer to play this week would be Kyron Williams and Chase Brown. If in fact we're in a situation in which Kenneth Walker does not play this week, Charbonnet is your flex, and your two starting wide receivers are Jennings alongside, it wouldn't even be Jennings. It would be A.J. Brown and Nico Collins. Thank you. All right, let's see here. Scrolling down, we had Ozzy Reyna. Thank you, Ozzy. Appreciate it. Says Kyler or Tua in a full PPR. Yeah, I'd much rather play Tua. It's not even close. Look, Tua has been incredible in the last 4 games. What has he been like? 23 plus fantasy points for 4 consecutive games, 300 plus passing yards each of the last 3 games, 2 plus passing touchdowns for the last 4. In the last 7 games, he's had a 76% passing completion percentage. You're wondering, how do I know all these numbers? Well, that's just what I do. The guy's a machine. He has been playing incredibly well. The run game is non-existent for the offense, and the Houston Texans cannot stop anybody within the passing game. So that's a clear and away auto start there with Tua. As for Kraft or Ferguson, again, Ferguson, even in a top 5 matchup last week, was quite honestly ignored. Only 6 targets was just, that's not enough production. He had 1 catch in the first half for 4 yards. So ultimately, between the two, I'd rather have Tucker Kraft. He's more of a receiving threat, especially within the red zone. They prioritize him. He in terms of just pure consistency, he has been a better option than Ferguson, especially considering the absence of Dak Prescott certainly impacting Ferguson in a negative manner. Kraft has had himself over 10 fantasy points in 4 of the last 6 games. Again, if I'm not mistaken, it's like 7 touchdowns in the last 10. Yeah, he is the preferred of those two. Now, as for your final question, pick 2 between London, Kupp, McConkey. As of right now, if it's a full PPR and McConkey gets a full week of practice and is active, again, you're going to play Kupp on Thursday. So tomorrow you'll play Kupp. If by the time we get to Sunday's game, if McConkey had a full week of practice, there's no hesitation, no nothing, I'd play him over London, honestly. Thank you. All right, we scrolled down to a question that comes in from Abide Los Angeles. Abide, thank you very much. Says, full PPR drop JSN for Jennings. If so, CD or Jennings. Okay, hold up. Okay. Let's rewind here a little bit. So, am I dropping JSN for Jennings? I don't know why that would have to be the move, but let's say theoretically speaking, you're playing in a smaller league. Let's say it's a 6 or 8 team league, and there's a plethora of incredible players on the waiver wire. In this case, am I picking up Jennings and dropping JSN to play him this week in order to give myself the best chance of winning? Yes, that's what I would do. So to answer your question, yes, at the moment, I would rather have Jennings over JSN and CeeDee Lamb, but I don't want to drop JSN if I don't have to. Again, he's still a top 20 wide receiver option rest of the way in this circumstance. Thank you, bud. Ballers sends in a question. Says, start 2, Hopkins, Devontae Smith, Breece Hall. If Breece Hall is active, which it's probably not trending towards him being active earlier today, based on the press conference that the Jets held, the coaching staff does not feel as confident regarding his potential return this week. So don't expect him to play. Expect for Hopkins and Devontae Smith to be your options. Now, in the event, for example, throwing it out there, let's say, for example, Breece Hall does end up playing. At that point, that's fine. You can throw him in there alongside of, most likely, I'd lean towards, I guess it depends on scoring format as to which way you want to go about it. But ultimately, between the two of them, like earlier today in the video, we had Devontae Smith one below. I mean, yeah, I'd probably keep it as that. I think regardless of scoring format, Devontae Smith doesn't get much opportunity, total reception. So Hopkins and Brees, if Brees is healthy. Thank you, ballers. Appreciate it. All right, Alex in the sent in a question, says 6 point per touchdown. Love or Goff? I'd rather play Jared Goff. Thank you. Again, the Buffalo Bills have given up two passing touchdowns in 4 of the last 5 games. As a secondary, as a defense, they haven't performed up to the par in which they were earlier in the season. So they've certainly struggled as of late. Even though Jared Goff will be subject to the rushing touchdowns that David Montgomery and, of course, Jahmyr Gibbs will be exposed to, I mean, the same threat occurs every single week as of late to, a guy like Jordan Love, unfortunately. So yeah, I'll lean towards Goff because that is implicated to be highest scoring, competitive matchup there. And then they're at home. Should be an exciting one. Also, Kincaid or Smart. Even if Kincaid plays, I don't love the matchup ultimately. If he doesn't score a touchdown within his first week back, it's not going to be a great look. So honestly, I'd rather have Stone Smart on my team starting this week. Thank you. Jorge sends in a question, says Kyler or Love to start. I'd rather start Kyler Murray this week. And start London, Neighbors, BTJ, or DK Metcalf. Between those available receiving options, London 1, BTJ 2, Neighbors 3. That's probably the way I go about it. I could flip a coin in regards to DK Metcalf and Neighbors as to who's going to be the more relevant option. I think in terms of target opportunity, Neighbors has certainly been exposed to more. DK Metcalf, all it takes is one singular play down the sideline. He just needs to be given the chance to go make a play of the such, which again, against Green Bay, I've got a really solid secondary. So I'll probably just go with London, Neighbors, and BTJ as of right now. Thank you. Let's see here. We took care of Jorge's question. Again, thank you very much. Dave P says, standard scoring league, Ertz or Kraft? Okay, so I can go back and forth on this because Zach Ertz, obviously, the last 3 consecutive games prior to the bye week has scored a receiving touchdown. That is fantastic. But in terms of ultimate consistency across the board, I still will lean in the direction of Tucker Kraft as of this week. Ever so slightly, but I still will. Thank you. We had a question sent in from Andrew Montoya. Andrew, thank you very, very much. Thank you. Oh, my God. Thank you very much. I don't know why. Sometimes the words just don't come out correctly. Says going for the back-to-back. Current lineup is in a half PPR. No tight end league. Okay, very well. Says Lamar, H.M. Montgomery, Hill, Adams, Pollard, Ravens defense, Justin Tucker, which again, I would probably suggest leaning towards a different kicker, but okay, we'll keep it as such. Bench consists of DeAndre Hopkins, Bowers, Kelsey. Any changes to make? At this point, considering what you have on roster, H.M. Montgomery, Pollard didn't practice today, but I'm assuming he'll be ready, by Sunday, and when he is, should be solid in the matchup. In a half PPR, I'm not making any changes. If it was a full PPR, I would probably consider playing Bowers there in the flex, but for right now, in a half PPR, leave it as is. My only other suggestion being, Andrew Montoya, that you replace Justin Tucker. Obviously very much so dependent on what is available in your league. If somebody is available like a Will Reichert or somehow, some way, Harrison Butker hasn't been picked up, you could potentially pick up Butker. If he's activated off the IR, you can just move him from your IR to your starting roster and easily play him. Thank you. Alrighty, let me scroll back up here. Okay. So we took care of that. We took care of Ozzy. Okay, Rogo, I see that. My bad, Rogo. My bad. Rogo says, happy holidays, bro. Jennings in WW. I'm going to assume that's waiver wire. I got a full team half PPR drop 2. Bo Nix, Higgins, Sutton, Gibbs, David Montgomery, Jonnu Smith, Amari Cooper. Okay, we have Dicker. We have Arizona's defense. We have Baker, Swift, Debo, Otten, Chubb. Okay, cool. Detroit. What is that? Okay, so this is the way that I go about this. As of right now, Rogo, Nick Chubb has to be immediately dropped. I would also drop the Detroit Lions defense. I mean, when I look at Detroit's upcoming, let's see here, Lions schedule. They take on the Bears next week. I mean, theoretically, you could play them against the Bears. But again, I'm not too keen on playing them against the Bears nor the 49ers in the week after. So as of right now, I would drop Chubb and the Detroit Lions defense going forward. And I would be able to move Devontae Smith out of your IR and then subsequently pick up Jennings, who I don't even know how is available, but yeah, go for it. Also, do I have the right starters? Rogo asked. As of right now, I'd play Baker over Bo Nix, Higgins, Sutton, Gibbs, Montgomery, Jonnu Smith. Within your flex position, yeah, everything looks right to me as it currently stands. The only difference that I would change would, as soon as you get Jennings on roster, I'd put him in the flex over Amari Cooper. Thank you. All right, scrolling back down, we had another question sent in. This one coming in from Akuma187. Thank you very much, Akuma. Says, sup, Andrew? In a 4-point per passing touchdown league, do I start Brock Purdy or Darnold? As of this week, I'd prefer to play Sam Darnold. I mean, honestly, quite frankly, I don't think there's a wrong answer between the... Well, technically, there could be. Between the two of them, I'd rather play Darnold. Let's just put it that way. I prefer the matchup in itself outright, along with the recency bias of what he's been doing in terms of his production, and the fact that they recently took on Chicago back in week 12 in comparison to Brock Purdy, who took on some iteration of the Rams back in week 3. I'd prefer to play Darnold as of this week, but they're going to be back-to-back ranked in tomorrow's video. Thank you. Somebody in the chat had asked Purdy or Kyler. I'd rather play Purdy there. Prod in the chat asked thoughts on starting Kyler Murray, and will he drop over 20? Dropping over 20 is purely going to be contingent on whether or not the New England Patriots can be an actual, sufficient enough offense to make it a competitive game. If it's not going to be a competitive game and James Conner's running the ball 30 times in the overall contest, we've seen it occur earlier this season when the Arizona Cardinals took on the Chicago Bears. If they can expose them as one of those lesser defenses that cannot stop the run, we could be in trouble. So that is why I've kind of leaned away from Kyler in some of these scenarios. I still think that he can be a solid option, but compared to a lot of these other quarterback options, unless the rushing game is implicated or unless he's throwing for 2 touchdowns, which again hasn't been very common over the course of the season, it's a really sketchy play in comparison to a lot of these alternatives that are significantly better plays as of this week. I'm Gucci U Polo sends in a question, says, hey Andrew, start Kyler or Stafford? Here we go. So this is exactly what I'm talking about. These are the questions. So as it currently stands between the two of them, considering the way that this Rams versus 49ers game has to go, I'm going to play Stafford there. Thank you. Homer sends in a question, says, what do you think about Jaden Reed this week? Also, who should I use at tight end? Pitts, Schultz, or Johnson? Between those three, I would play Juwan Johnson first. I play Pitts second, and then I play Schultz third. So that's the order in which I would rank those tight ends as it currently stands. As for Jaden Reed, I expect Romeo Doubs to come back this week, and I expect Romeo Doubs to most likely be the leading receiving option within the offense. As for fantasy purposes, there is not an identifiable piece within the offense that we can guarantee is going to be the clear number one every single week out. There hasn't been much consistency within that progress, so as of right now, it's probably a week in which you avoid him, or if you start him, he's a low end. Let's say he's a high end wide receiver 4, maybe low end wide receiver 3 at best. So like pretty much ranked 36 or 37 and below. I have him probably by the time I get to tomorrow's rankings and I've adjusted everything, depending on Romeo Doubs' status, he'll probably be like somewhere like 45, 46, just to be safe, because again, the target opportunity just isn't consistent enough to regulate and at least justify his position anywhere higher. Thank you, Homer. Appreciate it. Koss sends in a question. It says, Bo Nix or Darnold? I'd rather play Darnold there. Ingram or Ertz? I mean, look, the matchup for Ingram technically is better, but as of right now, I'll just lean. Well, actually, you also have Hunter Henry there. Okay, so considering you also have Hunter Henry as an option, between the three, I'd probably go. We could go about a many of different ways. I'd probably go Hunter Henry 1, Ertz 2, Ingram 3 in a full PPR. If it was a half PPR, I would just tell you to objectively start Ertz because he has more of a touchdown upside. At this point, you know what? Hold on, let me pull up my tight end rankings. I was working on it a little bit earlier this afternoon. Let me see where I have Ertz as it stands. Hold up. Yeah, I mean, at this point, I have him one spot below Hunter Henry in a full PPR. So yeah, Hunter Henry will be the preferred there. Then it'll be Ertz second, Ingram third. Thank you. Choobs McGee sends in a question. Choobs, where is your question? Let's see if I can find it. There it is. It says, hey, Andrew, in a half PPR, flex Tracy, Hawkinson, or Dell. Okay, interesting. Also, okay, so between those three, do I want to play Tracy? No, I don't want to play Tracy. I mean, he's probably going to catch the ball maybe 5-6 times out of the backfield, which is going to be decent. But in terms of running the ball, that's probably not going to be a consistent part of the overall matchup, mainly because, of course, they'll be down by probably 2 to 3 scores for a majority of that game. So it's pretty much between Dell and Hawkinson. At this point, conventional wisdom tells me to play Dell because it should be a shootout there, but I'd rather just play Hawkinson based on the fact that the Chicago Bears cannot stop opposing tight ends. I mean, just going back to last week, right? Last week, Kittle just went for 151 against them. Back in week 12, Hawkinson went for over 100, so I'd assume that he could probably do similar damage once again this week. As for your next question, Choobs, says also Chargers defense, week 17, question mark. I have the Cardinals for 15 through 17. Much appreciated. I mean, look, you would only start the Cardinals this and next week, if anything. I would also probably say that next week, specifically, depending on quarterback status for the Raiders, for the Giants, for the New Orleans Saints, it'll potentially fluctuate which defenses we want to play at a streaming base. So the Cardinals defense could just be a 1 week play here and then you're switching next week. But as for week 17 of the NFL season, let me see. You'd mentioned the Chargers. Let me see who they play. They play the Patriots, which is a fantastic play. If you weren't going to play them, preemptively speaking, the only other solidified potential plays that you could roll out there, the Colts versus the Giants could be a solid one. I think the Commanders taking on the Falcons could be a solid one. Could play the Jaguars versus the Titans, but I don't love it. So yeah, those would be a couple of the defense. But yeah, the Chargers would be the preferred of the bunch. Thank you. All right, let's see here. We had a question that came in from Sammy Keys, 8, who says, help me set my lineup in a half PPR. Already playing Barkley and St. Brown. Need an RB2 wide receiver to inflex. Okay, absolutely. Let's do this. Says my options are Kupp, Neighbors, Adams. Okay, so between those available wide receiver options, you have... okay, of course my chat just broke. What happened there? Okay, there we go. All right, so it says Kupp, Neighbors, Adams. Between those three options, Kupp is going to be your wide receiver 2. As for your running back options, you have Garendo, Brian Robinson, Dowdle, and Kamara. Cool. So in a half PPR, I'd prefer to play... I mean, we can go about it many of different ways, I believe. But considering the half PPR scoring format, let's see here. Where did I have Dowdle yesterday in comparison to Brian Robinson? Brian Robinson's there. Yeah, they're back-to-back. So as for the RB2, I'd go with Dowdle. As for the flex, considering the half PPR scoring format, I'd probably go Brian Robinson. So Kupp, Dowdle, Robinson. In the event in which you're willing to risk it for the biscuit, you could throw Kamara in as that flexible option. But considering the half PPR, again, there's not as much upside for him, especially if, in fact, it's a negative game script. Again, if he catches the ball 10 times on Sunday, then he could very easily compete with Brian Robinson. But considering how bad that run-stop defense has been all season long for the New Orleans, I think that Brian Robinson for a half PPR is the proper move there alongside a Rico and Kupp. Thank you. All right, Izzy sends in a question. Izzy, thank you very much. It says full PPR, Higgins, Kupp, Montgomery, and or Addison. If I have to play one of them, in a full PPR, it probably ends up being Kupp or Higgins. Addison is very much so I would understand if you played him. I wouldn't even blink if you played him. Montgomery is also another consistent option that every week, again, in a full PPR, considering he's had himself, I think it's 3+ receptions in the last 5 games. Considering that kind of consistency of opportunity there, he's probably a 15-point player. Really, at this point, you just want the biggest room for upside, which I think it's provided with the potential of what Kupp and Higgins have had on a consistent basis over the course of the last 2 months here. But yeah, I wouldn't even mind if you played Addison. If it was my suggestion in a full PPR, I'm playing Kupp there. Thank you. All right, let's see here. Baller sends in a follow-up question. Says, rank these for rest of season. Kelsey, Laporta, Schultz, Mark Andrews, and Noah Gray. Cool. Of those available, Kelsey 1, Mark Andrews 2, Laporta 3, Schultz 4, and Noah Gray 5. Thank you. Ross Wong sends in a question. Thank you, Ross. Says, Love versus Seattle or Herbert versus Tampa Bay. As long as Latimer McConkey's active, I'd prefer to play Justin Herbert there. Next question. Flex, Keenan Allen, Devontae Smith, Tillman, Vidal, or Ramondre. Depending on scoring format. If we're talking about a full PPR, I'd rather play Keenan Allen there. If it's a half PPR or standard, I'll take Ramondre. And then it says, under the assumption Charbonnet starts this week, full PPR. Yeah. So, I don't know why. Okay, so you asked me a question, and then you included under the assumption that Ramondre starts, but you didn't include Charbonnet in the list. Was Charbonnet originally supposed to be within this question? Ross Wong? Let me see here. Ross, yeah. So that's my only confusion regarding that question. Otherwise, yeah. Keenan Allen, full PPR, Ramondre in a half or standard. Thank you. King Alex says, hi, Andrew. In a full PPR, please help. 1 tight end, Ferguson, Ingram, Kraft, Smart. Yeah, cool. We'll play Tucker Kraft there of the available. Thank you. Next question, Purdy, Tua, or Baker. I think all of them are fantastic. Of the 3, I'd prefer to play Tua Tagovailoa this week. Number 1, Purdy would be 2, Baker would be 3. And then your next question says, also, I need 2 wide receivers and 1 flex. Jennings, Marvin Harrison Jr., Devontae. We have Pickens, who's questionable. Don't expect Pickens to play. Quentin Johnston, Najee Harris. Okay, so of those available, 2 wide receivers and 1 flex. Jennings has to play. of the available wide receivers, technically Marvin Harrison has to play alongside of him. Again, that's only if Pickens is out, which I would expect him to be. They've graded it as, I think, a grade 2 hamstring strain, so don't expect him to play for the next couple weeks. So Jennings and Marvin Harrison, and I'd most likely play Najee within your flex. Thank you. Luke C sends in a question. It says PPR rank. We have Cedric Wilson, Elijah Moore, McLaughlin, Sean Tucker. Wait. Am I getting this right? You included Cedric Wilson? Interesting. Okay. Elijah Moore, McLaughlin, Sean Tucker, Vidal, Jaleel McLaughlin. Oh no, that's Jalen McMillan. Jeez, when you're cutting the names in half, it makes it real difficult. Watson. Okay, very well. Okay, so now I get an idea. So that's okay. So that's not Chase McLaughlin. That is Jaleel McLaughlin. Okay, so that is that McLaughlin. That's McMillan. Okay, understood. I have a Week 15 bye with Minnesota and Green Bay. Green Bay for Week 16, perfect against the Saints. That's fantastic. Drop Minnesota's for Vegas tonight for Week 17. Yeah, Week 17, you can't, for the next couple weeks here, you cannot play Minnesota's defense because they take on pretty good solid offenses. So yeah, I'd be willing to make that swap. I don't have an issue with that at all. In regards to ranking those players, I mean, I don't want anything to do with Cedric Wilson, Vidal, Jalen McMillan, no thank you. McLaughlin, no thank you. Sean Tucker only ever touches my roster if I have Bucky Irving. Otherwise, Christian Watson's number 1 and Elijah Moore's 2, and everybody else is a secondary option. Thank you, Luke. Appreciate it. David Dooley sends in a question. Thank you, David. Says McCormick, Patrick Taylor, Tracy, or Brees in a flex half PPR. Okay, so you'll have to decide this by tomorrow night. In the event in which Isaac Guerrero is inactive, I am playing Patrick Taylor tomorrow night. In the event in which Guerrero does end up being active, you cannot play Patrick Taylor, and then you are pivoting to this upcoming Sunday. In the event in which Brees Hall is active, you would play him. Otherwise, you pivot to playing in a half PPR, most likely. Yeah, if it's a half PPR, I'd just play McCormick there. If it's a full PPR, I'll play Tracy. Thank you. Emily Doyle sends in a question. Says, hi, Andrew. Keenan Allen or Sincere in the flex full PPR? Considering the full PPR format, I will take Keenan Allen there. Thank you very much, Emily. Appreciate it. Gio Ortiz. Gio, where's your question, my man? Gio says, PPR flex, Isaac Guerrero, J.K. Dobbins, Bucky Irving, BTJ, Adam Thielen, DK. Okay, so, you got a lot of options here. Don't expect Bucky Irving to play. Don't expect Isaac Guerrero to play. Even if Guerrero plays, I'm not playing him or Bucky over JT this week. So then it's just purely a matter of, am I playing Adam Thielen over Jonathan Taylor or BTJ? That's really just the question at this point. In a full PPR, conventional wisdom will tell me to play JT, but I'm crazy enough to where I probably make the decision to end up rolling with Adam Thielen there. If it was my team, that's probably the direction I go as of right now. So it'd be Thielen 1, Taylor 2, BTJ 3. I could even justify playing BTJ second there because all he needs is, 6-7 catches, 80+ yards, and we're in business with 15+ fantasy points in that circumstance. So for right now, I'm okay with that. As for, let me find the rest of your question here, Gio. Says, defense and kicker rankings, don't even have them. If you want to ask me specifically about which defense I'd rather play, sure, but I don't really do that research. I don't really conduct the research regarding kickers and defensive rankings. Typically, I have a rough draft for kickers by Thursday, but I don't actually fully establish them by Sunday because I need to know the weather report to determine really which kickers can be trusted. And then additionally, defenses aren't done until Thursday morning. Thank you. And it says, thank you for helping through the playoffs in 6 out of my 7 leagues. Now it's championship time. No problem, Gio. Thank you. JCC sends in a question. Says, Otten or Laporta in a PPR? This one I can go back and forth on. As of right now, I'd rather play Laporta. Thank you. Eric Nixon sends in a question. Says, first round bye. I have the Ravens, Vikings. Need Week 17 ideas. Yeah, let me look. In terms of potential ideas for defenses that you can play in Week 17, the Colts and the Chargers are probably the 2 primaries that I would go after. The Chargers taking on the Patriots and the Colts taking on the New York Giants. I would consider potentially playing the Raiders defense in Week 17 against the Saints, considering, again, the Saints offense could be a disaster. But, I mean, considering how bad the Raiders are as an organization, they'd probably mess that up for us in Championship Sunday. So, really, I only just want to trust defenses that have been great all season long, which at this point, the Chargers would be that number 1 option. Otherwise, the Colts, the Commanders, if they're somehow still available by then, I'd assume people are picking them up this week in order to utilize them and may not drop them, considering how well they played this week. But we'll have to wait and see. Thank you. All right, Rogo says, for clarity, why choose Baker versus Bo versus Los Angeles defense? Yeah, the issue that I have with Bo Nix primarily revolves around the offense and his lack of rushing upside. Like that is really what Bo Nix has been missing. Like for the longest time this season, the guy was a running machine. He was getting like 6 to 8 points per game on average just off of rushing statistics with his rushing yardage and rushing touchdowns. That has no longer been the case. So if I'm just purely basing it on the passer Bo Nix in comparison to the passer Baker Mayfield, he is the significantly better option going into this week's matchup because, again, they air it out. They clearly do. And without Bucky Irving potentially in the lineup, less of a potential commitment to the running game will open up more red zone opportunities for the passing game to, obviously succeed like they did this most recent week. Thank you. Maurice Brown sends in a question, says, I have Jaden Daniels and Jalen Hurts. Wide receivers are Kupp, BTJ, Garrett Wilson, and McLaurin. Running backs are Kyron, Achane, Chase Brown. Defense, we have the Broncos and Ravens. Choose my lineup. Cool. Yeah, this I think is relatively easy in my mind. We could go about it many of different ways, but the way that I prefer to approach this as such, I'm playing Jalen Daniels at quarterback. I am playing Kupp alongside of McLaurin at wide receiver. Chase Brown and Achane are my running backs. Kyron is my flex, and the Ravens are my defense. Thank you. Scott Salmon sends in a question. Says full PPR. Start Caleb Williams or Matthew Stafford. I thought about this earlier today. I was going back and forth. I'm going to play Stafford between the two of them. Thank you. All right. CS Derek 13 sends in a question. Says I need two wide receivers and 2 flex. I've got Juwan Jennings, Ladd McConkey. I have Pollard, Chuba Hubbard, Shakir, Rashad White, BTJ, and Garrett Wilson. Okay, so 2 wide receivers, 2 flex. Juwan Jennings alongside of Ladd McConkey would be the 2 primaries at wide receiver. As for your 2 flexible options, under the assumption that this is a full PPR scoring format, I'm probably, even if it's not a full PPR, I'm just going to play Chuba Hubbard and Rashad White in the flex. So Juwan, Ladd, Chuba, Rashad. In the event in which it's a full PPR, I could justify playing Shakir over Chuba Hubbard, but I probably still won't. So Juwan, Ladd, Chuba, Rashad. That's the way I go about it. If Ladd McConkey's out, you replace him with Shakir. Thank you. Appreciate it, Sierra Derek. Chase sends in a question, says Addison or Waddle in a full PPR league with unique scoring. It says plus 40-yard touchdown, 2-point bonus, plus 50-yard touchdown, 3-point bonus, and they stack. Yeah, I mean, if we're going to prefer one of the two as just outright, I prefer Addison. And then on top of it, he has the more, explosive playmaking ability. So it's just clearly going to be Addison in this scenario as my suggestion here. Chase, thank you. All right, let's see. Your Savage Era sends in a question, says, should I drop Keenan Allen and pick up Romeo Doubs in a full PPR? I mean, look, here's the thing. Romeo Doubs is still in the concussion protocol. I mean, I'm assuming he practiced today. Let me check the report. If I'm not mistaken, when I was reading through all the pieces of information regarding practice status, let's see here. Romeo Doubs, yeah, it says he's still in the concussion protocol. He did practice fully, so hopefully by tomorrow or Friday, he can clear the concussion protocol and end up playing. Even in the event in which he does, I'd still prefer to have Keenan Allen playing for my roster this week. If we're talking about rest of season, I could justify picking up Romeo Doubs in order to play him against, the upcoming matchups for them. I know that they play the Vikings eventually here, which again should be a shootout, but then they have the Saints the next week. Yeah, so I don't mind that idea, under the assumption that you're just preparing for the future and you don't plan on playing Keenan Allen in those upcoming, week 16, 17 matchups. Thank you. All right, let's see here. Goku Saiyan sends in a question. Thank you, Goku. Says week 16, flex 1 wide receiver and 1 running back between Keenan Allen, Devontae Smith, and Brian Robinson and Najee Harris. Okay, so you're asking me about week 16, and I don't even know what happened in week 15 yet. So objectively speaking, I don't know if this is going to stay the same. Expect my suggestion to change 1 week from now. But if I was going to make a suggestion of these available players, I don't even know what teams they're playing against. So you're really putting me in quite the bind here, brother. All right. So you have, where is the Pittsburgh Steelers matchup? Pittsburgh plays against... Nope, that's not what I wanted to do. They play against the Ravens in week 16. No, thank you. So your running backs, Brian Robinson Jr. As for your wide receiver between Devontae Smith and Keenan Allen, let's see, who do the Eagles play? They play against Washington, and the Bears play against, let's see here, Bears. Yeah. My suggestion will be Keenan Allen alongside of Brian Robinson there for week 16. But again, that is, it could change between now and then. All it takes is one injury. Thank you. All right, moving on to Don, who sends in a question. Thank you, Don. All right, let's hear. Don, where art thou question? Don says, I need a okay, so he says I need a wide receiver 3 half PPR, Elijah Moore, Christian Watson, Romeo Doubs, Palmer, if Ladd is out. He took over in the slot position, correct? Yep. And all Patriot wide receivers are available. Cool. So under the assumption that, okay, so let's say, for example, Ladd McConkey was going to be out today or this week. I would play Joshua Palmer. In the event in which Ladd McConkey plays, as I expect him to, you play Romeo Doubs. Thank you, Don. Appreciate it. All right, taking care of that question. Let's scroll back up here. We had a question that came in from Big Al 9, who says, I need one. Neighbors, Pacheco, Patrick Taylor, if he plays. Depends on format. If we're playing full PPR, no matter what I do, I'm playing Neighbors. If it's a half PPR tomorrow, if Garendo's out, I'd play Taylor. But that's pretty much it. So if it's a half PPR and Garendo's out, I go Taylor. If it's a half PPR and Garendo's in, you play Neighbors regardless of what the situation is. Neighbors has to play full PPR. Thank you. Luke C sends in a question, says PPR rank week 15. Number 1, Cedric Tillman, Christian Watson, Sean Tucker, if Bucky's out, and Elijah Moore. Cool. Of those available, if I was going to rank them as it currently stands in a full PPR, the way that I'd most likely go about it, I go like Christian Watson 1, Cedric Tillman 2, Elijah Moore 3, Sean Tucker 4. And then as for, you said week 17 defense, Minnesota, Tennessee, or Indy, I'd prefer to have Indy's defense in that week. And then it says, question 3, does Josh Jack have a true cuff? Oh, Josh Jacobs? I mean, it would be Chris Brooks technically, but I would assume that if he was ever going to miss time, it would be a rotation between Chris Brooks and Emmanuel Wilson. But Chris Brooks is the next man up, technically, based on usage as of late. Thank you. Baller Machine sends in a question. Thank you, Baller. I appreciate it. It says, in an 8-man half PPR, 1 flex league, who do I start this week? So far, my starters are Josh Allen, Jamar Chase, DJ Moore. We have DJ Moore. And it says Jay Smith, which I'm assuming it's Jonnu Smith, as your tight end. You have Gibbs, Montgomery, James Cook. Bench, I've got Robinson Jr., Myers, Thielen, Otten, and Laporta. Okay, so Jonnu Smith stays at tight end. Otten and Laporta cannot sit in your lineup at all. As for quarterback, fantastic. Wide receivers with DJ Moore there is perfectly fine. I'm good with that. Gibbs, Montgomery. James Cook's the only one that I'm replacing. I'm not playing James Cook there. If it was my team, I'm playing Brian Robinson ahead of him. Thank you. Moving on to a question from Eric M. Eric, thank you. Says full PPR. Drop Ferguson for Patrick Taylor. I've got Andrews. Yeah, I don't have an issue with that. Again, under the assumption that you would theoretically utilize Patrick Taylor in the absence of Garendo tomorrow, then yes, absolutely. Otherwise, if you're picking him up just to hold him so that your opponent doesn't use him, that's also another strategy in which you can explore that opportunity. Shay sends in a question. Says, salutations, Andrew. Thank you for the help all season long. No problem. Full PPR. I need to get the flex right between Kyron, Higgins, and Dowdle for the championship berth. Okay, so between the three of them, obviously I think it'll depend on format. I think the safest way of going about this, though, is playing Kyron Williams. If you wanted to take, considering the full PPR format, if Higgins hadn't done what he did on Monday, I'd be 100% blindly confident in just telling you to play Higgins. But considering that most recent performance, I'm just going to tell you to play Kyron there. It's between one of those two. I don't think I want to play Dowdle in this circumstance, even though he has a fantastic matchup in his own right and has gone for a ridiculous yardage count and touch count over the course of the last 2 weeks. It's either Kyron or Higgins because they have the higher touchdown upside. I'd lean towards Kyron there if it's my team, though. Again, I'm going to play my stud that has gotten me to this point. Puka Doncic sends in a question. Thank you very much. Says super flex PPR need a flex. We have AR as in Anthony Richardson. We have Geno Smith. We have Garendo, Taylor, DK Metcalf, Myers, or Debo. Yeah, out of those available options, I'm just going to play Anthony Richardson there. That's cool with me. If you're not comfortable with Anthony Richardson, then you have to play Geno. I'm not going to play any of those alternatives over them as a super flex. And then it says starting running backs are Alvin Kamara, Rashad White. My wide receivers are Puka and Myers with Pitts at tight end. Okay, that's perfectly fine. I don't love the idea of playing Pitts at tight end, which, again, he does have a great matchup this week against the Raiders, but again, the opportunity share has just not been great enough, and the passing game has really just been in the direction of those receivers as of late. The priority is just not with Kyle. So for right now, yeah, I play Anthony Richardson there if it's my team. Thank you. Mikey sends in a question, says, what's up? Questions in the chat. All right, thank you, Mikey. All right, Mikey says PPR, Garrett Wilson, Marvin Harrison, Jawan Jennings, Debo, or Elijah Moore. Yeah, easily I'm going to play Jawan Jennings there. Thank you. Says, would you rather have Puka instead of Marvin Harrison or Garrett Wilson? I would, wait, what? Would I rather have Puka instead of Marvin Harrison or Garrett Wilson? Yes. 10 times out of 10, maybe 20 times out of 10, I would rather have Puka over Garrett Wilson. I would, if somebody is that's a trade question, I would give Marvin Harrison, Garrett Wilson, and $200 cash for Puka Nacua. But you understand what I'm saying. I'm not being like, anyway, you get it. Thank you. All right, moving on from Mikey's question. Let's see here. Let's go down to the bottom of this chat. All right. After Mikey, we had a question that came in from Justin, who says, at a half PPR, we have Hopkins, we have Marvin Harrison. Between the two of them, I probably lean towards Marvin Harrison as of right now. As for your next question, Ferguson, Kraft, Henry, Muth. As of right now, I would go Kraft 1, Henry 2, Muth 3, Ferguson 4. That's the way I go about it. Thank you. Blue Jay sends in a question. Blue Jay, thank you. Says full PPR. JT, because I'd be... okay, there's a lot of questions here. It's like multi-context. Says, okay, number one. With the talk about Debo getting the ball more within the 49ers organization, would you start him? I mean, again, they said that last week, and how many times he touched the ball? Again, if Kittle and Jawan Jennings are open, they're going to give them the ball first. That is just how this has functioned. Anyway, continuing on. If Kenneth Walker and Bucky Irving are out, I'd be playing Rachaad White and Charbonnet. Beautiful. I'd love to see that. And I'd have to flex Debo and bench JT because I'd be playing Kupp and Debo tomorrow. That doesn't make sense to me. You're playing JT in your flex. I don't think you should play Debo there. But that's just my humble opinion. I don't see why you have to play Debo tomorrow. That just doesn't make sense to me. Thank you. All right, moving on. Lenny V23 sends in a question. Thank you, Lenny. I appreciate it. It says, I have Kenneth Walker and handcuff Zach Charbonnet. My opponent for a first round has Breece Hall. And last week, I took Braylon Allen off of the waivers. If Kenneth Walker can't go, who do I start? If Kenneth Walker can't go, it's Zach Charbonnet 100% of the time. He is unstoppable when he is by himself in this backfield. So absolutely, in the absence of Kenneth Walker, it is Zach Charbonnet. Thank you. No matter format. Easy E sends in a question, says, I picked up the Jags defense for week 16 and 17. All right, I don't love it. I don't love it. I'll tell you that much. I have the Vikings for week 15. Start 3 wide receivers. Standard league. Kupp, Thielen, Evans, Neighbors, Allen, Coleman. Okay, so of those available in a standard scoring format, Kupp, Evans, and probably... Yeah, as of this point, it probably just goes Kupp, Evans, Thielen at this point. You could play Keenan Allen there, but it's so dependent on a touchdown, which isn't out of the realm of possibility, but the target share is going to be the determining factor. So for right now, Kupp, Evans, and Thielen. As for your next question, it says start PPR Chase, Jennings, Thielen, Neighbors, Addison, Allen. As of right now, Chase, Jennings, and Addison would be your 1 through 3. Those would be your 3 starting wide receivers. Thank you. Easy. Appreciate it. All right. This is my question. I'm actually curious. I have to look this up now. I am very much so curious as to how this is even pronounced. Yeah, but that's not even the right word. Okay. So I'm just going to say Brux because I don't even know what even language this is, brother. When you throw the X in there, it starts getting the French accents, and I'm not even going to be able to get there. So let's just say, let's call you Brux for right now. All right, thank you very much for the question. It says full PPR, super flex. Pick one. Okay, so it says pick my lineup for quarterbacks. We have Kyler, Anthony Richardson, Aaron Rodgers. Okay, between those 3, I would prefer to play Kyler Murray. As for your next option, running backs, Achane, Montgomery, Jonathan Taylor, Rico Dowdle, and Charbonnet. Cool. Under the assumption that Kenneth Walker doesn't play, which I am expecting that to be the case, you would play Achane 1 and Charbonnet 2. Let's say, for example, somehow, some way, this upcoming Sunday, Kenneth Walker is in fact active. In order to replace Charbonnet, you would play Montgomery ahead of him. As for your wide receivers, you have Kupp, you have St. Brown, and you have BTJ. You play Kupp and St. Brown as your 1-2 combo. You are flexing. So if, let's say, for example, Achane and Charbonnet are your starting running backs, Montgomery will be your flex. If in the case in which we're getting to a situation in which Kenneth Walker's active and you're playing Achane and Montgomery as your running backs, Rico would be your flex. And I just realized you asked, it's a super flex league, so I'm playing Kyler and Anthony Richardson this week. Thank you. All right, moving on to the next question from Good Luck. Says, questions in the chat, bro. All right, Good Luck. Thank you. Good Luck says, in a full PPR, I need one wide receiver and one flex. We have Jalen Waddle. Jalen Waddle. Darnell Mooney, Tyron Tracy. Yeah, I'll take Waddle there very comfortably as your wide receiver. As for your flex, I'm going to play Darnell Mooney there. So both of the wide receivers are my preferred. It says also defense, Denver or Baltimore. I'd 1000% prefer to play Baltimore's defense. It's fantastic. Thank you. Luke C, we took care of that. Never mind. We're scrolling back down to the live chat. Let's see. Did I miss anything? We took care of Good Luck. JC sends in a follow-up. Says, start Vikings defense this week. I mean, I don't mind the Vikings defense this week. Again, for the future of the season as a whole, their upcoming matchups aren't the greatest. As for this week, I have no issue playing them up against Chicago. I have no issue there. But it says, who should I drop? If so, what defense would I stash? It says Washington, Atlanta, Green Bay. Okay, so look, let's say, for example, if you were going to drop if you were going to drop Minnesota's defense this week, I would be pretty confident picking up Washington and playing them against the Saints. I'd actually prefer to do that. And then for week 16, I'd like to pick up Green Bay and play them also against the Saints. So that's what I'm doing. As the next couple weeks, I'm either targeting the Saints offense or I'm targeting the Giants offense in order to play defenses against them, because I would love to expose their lack of quarterback production via fantasy defensive upside. Thank you. All right, scrolling down here, we had a question that after we had JJC, we had Savage Era had a follow-up. Says, playoff bound, thanks to you. Josh Allen or Herbert? Good question. It's Josh Allen 10 times out of 10, every day of the week, twice on Sundays, especially on Sundays. Again, Josh Allen is the greatest fantasy football quarterback of all time. There's no questions about it. His last 2 weeks of performances, having scored, the most fantasy points ever by a quarterback in a single game. I mean, it's not a question, but I know you're trolling, so I appreciate it, Savage. Thank you. Diego sends in a question. Diego, thank you very much. Says, for the flex, should I got with Patrick Taylor? Okay, so your autocorrect cooked you, brother. That's what I'm going to begin to start with. Okay, so it says you have Patrick Taylor, you have Jaylen Warren, you have Otton, and Elijah Moore. Okay, so for my flex, should I mean, again, the question cooked you so hard, brother. I don't even know what you're asking. So let's say, for example, you're asking about Patrick Taylor or Jaylen Warren or Otton or Elijah Moore. Who are we playing, theoretically speaking? In the event in which Garendo is out tomorrow, I'm playing Patrick Taylor. In the event in which Garendo is in, I am playing Jaylen Warren this weekend. Thank you. Drippy, Dario sends in a question. Says, full PPR, set my lineup. Bo Nix or Kyler? I'd rather play Kyler there. Next question, it says James Cook, Kenneth Walker, Ramondre Stevenson, Pollard, Pacheco, Sincere McCormick. Okay, so between those available options at running back, under the assumption that Kenneth Walker's out, as we expect him to be, I'd be playing most likely Pollard alongside of James Cook there at running back. Within your wide receiver position, you have Neighbors, A.J. Brown, JSN, Thielen. I'd play A.J. Brown and JSN as my wide receivers, and I'd be flexing Thielen. So again, top to bottom, it is Kyler, Pollard, Cook, A.J. Brown, JSN, and Thielen. Thank you. Full PPR. In the event in which, again, we potentially, for example, throwing it out there just so we have the context, let's say, for example, Kenneth Walker plays. I'm still not going to play him over the alternatives. He'd have to have multiple days of practice. Like, he'd have to fully practice tomorrow and Friday for me to feel confident. Otherwise, I think it'd be a 50-50 split between him and Charbonnet on Sunday. So Pollard and James Cook are the way that I go. Ashley Gomez sends in a question. Thank you very much. Says, in a half PPR, do you trust AJ/T/Myers' opinion on all three? I mean, again, when I talked about it earlier today, A.J. Brown's a little bit sketchy, but again, the way that the Nick Sirianni coaching regime over the course of the last couple of years with the Eagles has functioned, anytime a player has gone out to the public and complained about a lack of touches, typically the next week, all they can do is get targets. Whether it has been A.J. Brown, whether it has been Dallas Goedert, Devontae Smith, oftentimes the squeaky wheel gets the oil within that offense. And based on the most recent public comments of A.J. Brown, Brandon Graham, all that kind of jazz, I expect A.J. Brown to have a nuclear week this upcoming week. As for T. Higgins, again, it's just one bad performance. I'm not going to use that against him as a potential kind of, we're expecting that for the future. not every week do we wake up and see Jamar Chase go with 18 targets. That is typically out of the realm of possibility. So I'd expect more out of T. Higgins this week. And then as for Myers, even with Desmond Ridder, I expect him to be solid because he takes on the Falcons. Again, it's the easiest matchup. It's a revenge game for Desmond Ridder. So I'd assume that Jacoby Myers will be solid. But obviously the quarterback play is a significantly lesser with him under center in comparison to what Aiden O'Connell or Gardner Minshew would have presented in this week comparatively. Thank you, Ashley. Appreciate it. Tim Compton sends in a question. Says, Isaac Guerrero, Tracy Pacheco, pick 2 in a full PPR. Okay, so considering desperate times call for desperate measures. In tomorrow's game, if Guerrero is active, I would play him most likely alongside of Tracy. In the event in which he is not active, of course, try to pick up Patrick Taylor and play him alongside of Tracy. But if that's not available, then the answer is kind of made for you. The decision is made for you. And without Guerrero or Patrick Taylor, you'd have to start Tracy and Pacheco. Thank you. All right, let's see here. Denon sent in a question. Says, who should I start in my 2 wide receiver spots? We have Terry McLaurin, JSN, Quentin Johnston, Mooney, Keenan Allen, and Thielen. Cool. Yeah, of those available, I'd play Terry McLaurin and JSN very comfortably. I could consider playing Thielen there, but as of right now, Terry McLaurin and JSN are the 2 more consistent options that have shown a greater kind of consistency over the course of the last couple months because they've been given the ample opportunity while Adam Thielen's been injured. But I'll still lean towards those 2. Auntie Slayer says, what earns a week 15 bye on Sleeper? Top 2 teams, any division? Well, it just depends on what your commissioner has set your lineup as. I mean, if you're playing in a standard normal league in which, okay, it depends, right? So let's say, for example, you're playing in a league in which 8 teams make the playoffs. If 8 teams make the playoffs, nobody gets a bye week. Only in a scenario in which 6 teams make the playoffs, because again, if there's 6 teams, that means 2 teams will get a bye, and then there'll be a week 15, week 16, and 17 matchup because the fantasy playoffs are only supposed to be 3 weeks. So if at any point you are playing in a league in which 8 teams are in the playoffs, there are no bye weeks. Otherwise, 6 teams, technically, it should be the top 2 teams based on overall record that earn the first round bye. But again, it's very much so dependent on what your commissioner has set it as. Jennifer sends in a question. Thank you very much, Jennifer. Says, playing stack number 1 team in playoffs, most upside. Says, pick 3, minimum 1 running back. Reed, Tillman, Tracy, Braylon Allen, Quentin Johnston, BTJ. Says, if no Guerrero. Okay, got it. And Falcons or Steelers defense. Am I playing the Falcons? Yeah, I'm going to play the Falcons defense this weekend. Am I playing the Steelers defense against... No, I'm not going to play the Steelers defense. Look, the Steelers are a great defense, but against the Eagles at that point, I think that's where the buck stops in terms of playing them. So I'd be okay playing the Falcons there. Very comfortable, in fact, in comparison to the alternative. As for the potential 3 picks, if I'm looking for the quote-unquote most upside of those available options... Oh, PTJ is Patrick Taylor Jr. Got it, not BTJ. I assumed it was... Okay, now I've understood. Okay, under the assumption that Guerrero is out, my apologies. Now I've understood. Under the assumption that Guerrero is out, Patrick Taylor, Braylon Allen. Okay, you know what? Let's just do it this way. Because there's so many contingencies within your question, it makes it difficult. So because you have Braylon, because you have Quentin Johnston, and because you have Patrick Taylor Jr., all 3 of those players need for another player to miss this week. So Braylon needs Breece Hall to miss. Quentin Johnston needs Ladd McConkey to miss. And PTJ requires that Guerrero misses. Let's say all 3 of those things occur. Those 3 would be your plays. But considering I assume Ladd McConkey to play, your plays most likely end up being this week Patrick Taylor on Thursday tomorrow in the absence of Guerrero, Braylon on Sunday in the absence of Breece Hall, and then I probably throw, just to be safe, if it's a full PPR, Jennifer, I probably roll with Tracy in the flex. Otherwise, I'm going with Tillman. Thank you. All right. We took care of Denon's question. Denon, do you have another question, brother? I saw that you sent in 2 things. Let's see. We took care of the first one. It says, and who would you play in the flex? Isaiah Davis, if Breece Hall doesn't play. Jalen Warren, Keenan Allen, Mooney, Quentin Johnston, and JSN. Yeah, JSN plays in your flex there, brother. Thank you, Denon. Appreciate it. All right, moving on. We had another question from David Dooley. Thank you, David. It says, Bo Nix, Stafford, or Jameis Winston this week? Matthew Stafford, Jameis Winston. Between the 3 of them, I'd probably go Bo Nix 1, Stafford 2, Jameis 3. That's the way I go about it. Thank you. Caesar sends it a question. Says, in a 14-team PPR, my quarterback is Stafford or Mahomes. I prefer to play Stafford this week. Says, okay, 2 running backs. We have Jacobs, Guerrero, Brian Robinson, Stevenson. Cool. No matter what the situation is with Guerrero, I'm playing Jacobs and Brian Robinson. 2 wide receivers, Hill, Devontae Smith, Brian Thomas. Cool. Play Hill and Brian Thomas. Tight end is Muth or Hawkinson. I'll take Hawkinson there. And 1 flex. Between your available options, I'm playing Stevenson within your flex. Thank you very much, Caesar. Appreciate it. Okay, we've effectively caught up. Again, for those of you who are joining us on this wonderful Wednesday, welcome. Hope you guys are doing well. Again, we've been here for the last, I want to say, hour answering questions. Yeah, about 59 minutes and 40 seconds exactly on the dot. Again, if you guys have any questions, type it in the live chat. Please make sure to include your scoring format. It is greatly appreciated. The more context you provide for me in that regard, the easier it'll be for me to just answer these questions quickly. Thank you. Okay, let's see here. Jocelyn in the chat says, I'm playing Zay over Neighbors and London. Okay, very well. Let's hope for the best. Okay, let's see here. Trevor Lim says, Debo, Smitty, or Sincere in the flex full PPR. At that point, that is an interesting one. Look, here's the issue, right? Alexander Madison most likely ends up being active this week. The question is, what kind of a role does Alexander Madison have within the offense to where it is quite frankly, it is unknown. We don't know what the breakdown of the opportunity share will be between Sincere McCormick and Alexander Madison, unless there is a comment made by a head coach or an offensive coordinator to give us more of a detail regarding it. So at that point, I just end up playing Debo, actually. Michael Hart says full PPR, pick 3, A.J. Brown, T. Higgins, Devontae Adams, Lad McConkey, JSN. I mean, look, of those available options, which again, you have many of great ones. A.J. Brown, T. Higgins, Devontae Adams, those are my highest ranked of the bunch. Let's see here. Seth in the chat says, I've got Bucky, Guerrero, Sincere, and Patrick Taylor, and Braylon Allen. What do I do if Guerrero plays tomorrow? I'm worried about the injury. In the event in which he plays tomorrow, you have to play him. Looking at the available options you have on roster, it's not looking good, brother, because Bucky most likely doesn't end up playing. If Guerrero plays, then Patrick Taylor is not a startable option. So let's say, for example, Bucky and Taylor immediately are non-starts, and then you have to either play Sincere or Braylon Allen, which again, you'd have to wait until Sunday to know if Breece Hall is playing in order to play Braylon Allen. So in the event in which Guerrero is active tomorrow, you have to play him based on your current scenario. Otherwise, you could screw yourself by not doing so. I know that you're worried about the injury. I'm worried about the injury. But considering the construction of how you have your team set up and the contingencies that are required for and the prerequisites for Bucky Irving and Breece Hall Bucky Irving and Breece Hall to kind of determine whether or not they're even going to play, under the assumption that neither of them are going to play, you have to play Guerrero tomorrow. Thank you. Lenny V23 sends in a question, says, in a half PPR, JSN or Jordan Addison in the flex? I'd rather play Jordan Addison. Thank you. Taylor B sends in a question. Let's see here. Taylor B, where art thou question? Taylor, where art thou? Says, sup, Andrew. Hope all is well. It is. Thank you very much. Says, in a full PPR, I need 2 running backs and 2 wide receivers and 2 flex. We have Alvin Kamara, David Montgomery, Chuba Hubbard, Breece Hall, Higgins, Neighbors, JSN, Jennings, Evans. Thanks. Okay. Got a lot of really good options here. In a full PPR scoring format, I am playing as my running backs, Alvin Kamara and Chuba Hubbard. Within my wide receiver spots, I am playing Higgins and Jennings. Within my flex spot, I am playing Montgomery and Evans. Thank you. All right, we took care of that one. Scrolling back down here, we had a question that came in from Jorge Perez. Jorge, thank you very much. It says questions in the chat. Jorge, appreciate it. Jorge Perez says, hi, Andrew. In a full PPR, I have Kamara, Kyron, and my flex is Chase Brown. My bench is Guerrero, Tracy, JMO. Should I keep it as is, or who should I switch? No, keep it as is. You're good to go, brother. You have no need to change anything. Those are the perfect options for all 3 positions. You're good to go there. Says, do you think Kamara will be good to go? Yeah, he should be fine. Again, look, Kamara is going to 100% succeed in a full PPR without a doubt because of the receptions that he's going to be able to garner over the course of that game. So even if he doesn't find himself in the end zone, even if the workload of rushing opportunity is not going to be at a great number because of the lack of kind of an offensive structure because of the backup quarterback, at least we can guarantee that he's going to get himself a bunch of checkdowns. Again, in the last 3 games without Derek Carr in the lineup between weeks 6 through 8, I mean, what was the stat that I mentioned on Tuesday? God, let me go find it right now. In the last 3 games without Derek Carr, 26 targets, 17 receptions. So nearly 6 receptions per game without Derek Carr, which is pretty promising going into the week. So yeah, Kamara, Kyron, Chase Brown, perfect, good to go. All right, no concerns there, brother. Steve Mall sends in a question, says Freiermuth over Otten for week 16 and 17. I mean, look, if Pickens is going to continue to miss time, absolutely yes. Let's hear. Christian Trejo sends in a question. Thank you very much. It says pick one wide receiver, running back, and a flex from Evans, Shakir, Myers, Charbonnet, Jonathan Taylor, Connor, Bucky Irving, Bo Nix, and Baker Mayfield. Okay, between those two quarterbacks, I would prefer to play Baker Mayfield first and foremost. Now let's go back to your prior question. Let's pick a wide receiver. Of those available, Mike Evans plays. Of the available running backs, under the assumption that Kenneth Walker is out, it is Charbonnet. In the event in which it is not, let's say for example, Kenneth Walker is not out, Connor would play instead of Charbonnet. So yeah, this is the way to go. To go like Evans, Charbonnet, Connor. Let's say if Kenneth Walker is out, we'd replace Charbonnet with Connor, and then we would throw in a full PPR Shakir in the flex. That's the way I go about it. So Evans, Charbs, Connor. Otherwise, Evans, Connor, Shakir. Thank you, Christian. Appreciate it. All right, we had a question that was sent in from We Buy Homes, who says, in a non-PPR, if Hall doesn't go, who should I flex between Shakir, Garendo? Okay, so already we have an issue here with this question. So Garendo, you're not going to know. Okay, so we won't know if Hall is going to play until Sunday, right? So if Garendo is active tomorrow, you cannot play him because, quite frankly, you just have better alternative options. Like I'd rather play Rachaad White, Shakir. Those are just better options ultimately, right? And then if you get into a situation in which Breece Hall does not end up playing and you have Braylon Allen, you could theoretically just filter him in there as a better option. So as of right now, we are looking to try to play Rachaad White. That is the peak potential in a non-PPR in your scenario. We're going to hold out for that. In the event in which Bucky Irving does end up playing this week, I think I'm still playing Rachaad White because I don't trust Bucky Irving at a full capacity, nor do I believe that the team is going to trust him at a full capacity considering the injury. So that's what direction we're leaning in. Thank you. Denon sent in a follow-up, says, should I be worried about Pollard since he's starting to have problems with his ankle, foot, and didn't practice today? I mean, again, we'll have to wait and see by the time we get to Friday. If by Friday he has a full participation, I'm not going to be too concerned about it. But again, if you are a Pollard manager, if you want to just preemptively get ahead of it, maybe picking up Tyjae Spears could be in your best interest. Otherwise, I'm not too worried about it. Again, it's only Wednesday. I mean, again, if you look at the last, 3 weeks here, Mike Evans hasn't practiced on Wednesdays or Thursdays. Like there are many of players that late in the season, because everyone's banged up, they're just not going to practice on Wednesdays because it's just not an important day. Again, typically the biggest indicator as to whether or not a player is going to be active is Friday. Thank you. Tex Raider says, hey Andrew, I have Reichard, Koo, Lutz, and McLaughlin available on the waivers. Playoffs clinched, week 16-17 matchups. Make moves? If so, what priority? Purely depends on schedule. I would suggest that you go find a kicker between either Reichard or McLaughlin. One of those two. I'm going and picking up one of those two, depending on who has games that are indoors. I do not want to play outdoor games in the month of December, early January. So preferably, if we can avoid any weather concerns, depending on the schedules there, that would be the appropriate way of going about this. So for example, like I know Will Reichard, week 17 plays at home against Green Bay. Week 16, let's see where Will Reichard plays. He plays away in Seattle. Could be a little bit of a trouble situation if, in fact, the weather does not pan out well. Now, as for the alternative option, I had mentioned you play McLaughlin. In week 16, he plays in Dallas, so that's an indoor stadium. Fantastic. And then in week 17, plays at home. No weather concerns there in Florida. Again, the weather is not going to impact that. So as of right now, I'd probably go with McLaughlin if it's my team. You could play Will Lutz there, but that's under the assumption that his consistent field goal trend continues as of right now. Thank you. So yeah, the order in which I go about it as of right now, probably Tex Raider, we go like McLaughlin, Reichard, Lutz, Koo in that order. Thank you. YMC says PPR Tracy, Pacheco, or Patrick Taylor. So under the assumption that Garendo's out tomorrow, I'm playing Patrick Taylor against the Rams. In the event in which Garendo does play, at that point in a PPR, I have to play Tracy. And then also Waddle or Mooney, I'd rather play Waddle. Thank you. I see you, Mark says playoff lineup question in the chat. All right, thank you, Mark. Appreciate it. All right, Mark says, in a full PPR, start one quarterback, two running backs, two wide receivers, and two flex. My team consists of Mahomes and Knicks. Okay, I'll take Knicks there at quarterback. Bijan, Charbonnet, cool. Those will be your starting running backs unless something is to happen to Kenneth Walker. Wide receivers, we have CeeDee Lamb, Higgins, Sutton, Garrett Wilson, Addison, Hopkins, cool. At wide receiver, I think it's really simple to just play Higgins, Sutton as the 1-2 combo. Within your flex, go CeeDee Lamb alongside of Addison. That's the way we go about it. So again, from the top to the bottom, I see you, Mark. The lineup would be Bo Nix, Bijan, Charbonnet, Higgins, Sutton, Lamb, Addison. If, in fact, Charbonnet has Kenneth Walker active, we would then swap in Mondre Stevenson to play in his stead. Thank you. Okay, we took care of that question. Appreciate it again. Scrolling down, we had a question that came in from Lan is awesome. Says, start two wide receivers and one flex between A.J. Brown, Sutton, Jennings, Higgins, Addison, Montgomery. Already locked in Barkley and Connor at running backs. PPR league, thanks. No problem. Okay, two wide receivers and a flex. In a full PPR, you've got a lot of really good options here. So, really, we're probably going to get burnt here somewhere because somebody's going to go off on your bench because really you have too many good players. This is one of those situations where, quite frankly, it's just like it's a luxury and a curse at the same time. But if I'm going to start this contingency of players in a full PPR, I'm going A.J. Brown, I'm going Jawan Jennings, and I'm probably in a full PPR. Do I play Sutton over Higgins in a full PPR? No, I'd probably just play Higgins there. I'd probably go AJB, Jennings, Higgins. Thank you. All right, after land, we had a question that came in from ML who says, in a half PPR, pick one, Garendo, Najee, Hall, Allen, Shakir. Okay, so under the assumption, out of the group, I'm going to play Shakir. That's who I'd play out of all of them. Thank you. Octavio says, questions in the chat. Thank you, Octavio. Says, in a 10-team full PPR, man made the playoffs. It says, need help on how to set up my lineup. I have Allen as my quarterback, Neighbors, Marvin Harrison as my wide receivers, Gibbs, Brees as my running backs, Njoku and Bucky are my tight end and flex. Bench is Waddle, Flowers, Dowdle, Downs, Hopkins, and Braylon Allen. Okay, cool. I can very easily set this lineup. Let me just copy paste it onto a notepad and I will construct it in front of myself so I can easily convey it to you right now. Okay, Okay, so this is under the assumption that as of going into this week, you will not have Brees Hall or Bucky Irving. Expect neither of those two to play for you this week. Expect them both to be injured. In the event in which they do play, we can update this later on in the week, but as it currently stands, the way that I'm going about it, Allen at quarterback, Neighbors and Waddle are your two starting wide receivers. Njoku's your tight end. Gibbs and Dowdle are your two starting running backs. And then I'm probably playing, depending on, let's say, for example, Brees Hall or Bucky Irving. Let's say, for example, both of them are out. At that point, if both are out, I would just, what's your scoring from that? Full PPR? I just play Downs in your flex. In the event in which, let's say, Brees Hall was active, though, I would play him in the flex. Thank you. All right, we took care of that. Moving. Actually, you know what? I probably end up not even playing. Yeah, I would play Downs in the flex. Let me retract that. I would play him in the flex over Braylon Allen. Thank you. All right, Zach Koo sends in a question. Says, in the standard league, do you like Rico Dowdle or Brian Robinson Jr.? That's an interesting one. Technically, in a standard league with 0 receptions points, I'd probably prefer to have Brian Robinson there, to be honest, between the two of them. Thank you. Mainly because touchdown upside, the influx of that 6-point juice that is just going to hit his scoreline is probably a little bit more prevalent or more available to Brian Robinson within the matchup, within the contingency of what that game script is most likely going to look like in comparison to Rico, who obviously benefits from the receiving game at a pretty good capacity. So, yeah, as of right now, it'd probably be Brian Robinson there, ever so slightly. Again, they were back-to-back in a half PPR. If I remove those points out of Rico's scoreline, the projection will probably lean towards Brian there. Michael sends in a question. Michael, where art thou? Question, though. Michael... All right, I see it. Michael sends in a question. Mancuso says, full PPR, choose a running back and a defense. We have Rashad White with maybe no Bucky, Pat Taylor with maybe no Garando, Sincere McCormick, against Arizona. Okay, cool. And then it says Arizona versus New England, Atlanta versus Las Vegas, Baltimore versus... Okay, cool. So this is the way that we would go about it. I'm going to order it as to the priority at which I want to play these players, okay? So choosing a running back, Rachaad White above all of them. Patrick Taylor would be second under the assumption that there's no Guerrero. Sincere would be third. As for your defenses, Baltimore's 1, Washington 2, Arizona 3, Atlanta 4. Thank you, Michael Mancuso. I appreciate it. All right, taking care of that. We scroll down all the way here. We had a question that came in from Andre Fox. Thank you very much, Andre. I appreciate it. Andre says, questions in the chat, must win. Please help. No problem. Let's see what we have here, Andre. Andre, let's see, Fox. There it is. Got the question. Perfect. All right, says in a 10-team PPR, we have Purdy, Tua, and Anthony Richardson. Cool. Okay, so between those 3 quarterbacks, if I could only play one of them, I'm playing Tua Tagovailoa. The order in which I would order them would be Tua 1, Purdy 2, Anthony Richardson 3. Tomorrow, when I post my tight end and quarterback rankings here on the channel, that'll be set up so you have a visual representation. But yeah, Tua 1, Purdy 2, Anthony Richardson 3. I almost said Anthony Davis. I've been watching too much Lakers. Anyway, running backs are Achane and Bijan. Cool. Those are auto starts. We have Kenneth Walker and Charbonnet. And my bench. Okay, so under the assumption, okay, again, Achane and Bijan are your starting running backs. Kenneth Walker, Charbonnet. In the event in which Kenneth Walker doesn't play, Charbonnet is your flex. If Kenneth Walker plays, you can't play either of them, to be honest. And then next, you have bench wide receivers of Cup on the bench. Okay, very well. Wide receivers, Cup, Jacoby, Sutton, Debo. Bench, we have tight end Sam, okay. Laporta, we have Otten, okay, cool. So yeah, look, the way that I go about this, Andre Fox, I'm playing Tua, I'm playing Achane, Bijan, I'm playing Charbonnet in the flex, I'm playing Cup alongside of Sutton as my wide receivers, I'm playing Sam Laporta at tight end. As for your defenses that are available, the Cardinals are the preferred. Dicker the kicker is fantastic there. If you have another potential playable spot outside of one flex, let's say you have 2 flexible options that you can roll with, again, it would be Jacoby Myers there, but you probably know that by now. Thank you. Alrighty. I think we've caught up effectively, have we? I think so. Blue Jay says, why is Kraft the thumbnail Big Night Sunday? I mean, look, why is he the thumbnail? I don't know. I mean, I was thinking, oh, I like Tucker Kraft this weekend. I mean, there's no hidden messages behind anything. Typically like a Thursday or a Monday thumbnail ends up being a player that played well. Outside of this, I'm just throwing up random players. Like, it's just, I go and I find the graphic online and I just throw it into Photoshop. Like, there's nothing crazy. There's nothing crazy about it. I thought about throwing in last Wednesday, I threw Jaden Reed on the thumbnail because last Wednesday, last week, I had finished my strength of schedule for the fantasy playoffs, and the Green Bay Packers had the second best strength of schedule at wide receiver. So weeks 15, 16, and 17, they had the best fantasy point per game schedule allowed. Obviously, Jaden Reed, he did us no good favors there. So I didn't want to have anybody implicated within Thursday's game to get anybody too excited about the scenario there. Okay, guys. So like I typically like to do, I like to have these live streams about an hour to an hour and a half, or about an hour 18 into the live stream. I think that's where we're going to call it. I do appreciate y'all coming through, supporting the channel. If I was not able to answer your questions, again, I apologize. There's many of you and one of me. But again, we'll be back tomorrow night to continue to answer questions in regards to our overall rankings and how we want to set up for this upcoming Sunday and the slate of games. Again, going into tomorrow night, if you are curious regarding whether or not you are playing a Guerrero or Patrick Taylor combo, in the event in which Guerrero is not going to play tomorrow, Patrick Taylor, like I had in my Tuesday running back rankings video, is my number 24 overall running back. You would only play Guerrero if, again, you are in a bind situation to where if he's active, you're playing him because you are, missing a lot of players, or really because you have just been hit with the injury bug. So if he's active, you can play him. Otherwise, we already know who we're starting. In many of our scenarios, Purdy, Stafford, Kupp, Puka, Jennings, Kittle, across the board, Kyron, we're playing them auto starts. But otherwise, everything will be good to go. So tomorrow night, after the football game, I will be back in terms of the live stream. I'll be back Friday, 7 p.m., Saturday, 1 p.m., PST on all of it, and 7 a.m. Sunday morning, good to go, ready to go with all the rankings and all that kind of jazz. I do appreciate y'all coming through tonight. Again, much love, and that'll be it. I'm cueing the music. I hope you guys have a great rest of your Wednesday night. I'm going to work on quarterback and tight end rankings for tomorrow. Okay, Isaacus sends in a final question of the night. Says, how do we feel about Cedric Tillman? I have Worthy and Warren. As of right now, if you're playing in a full PPR, I could consider playing Cedric Tillman over both. If it's my team, I probably end up playing Warren this week just to be safe with it, because again, haven't seen Cedric Tillman in quite a while. There could be a less of a potential impact of his usage, considering he's been out for such a long period of time. The offense may just be purely predicated on getting the ball to Njoku and Judy. You got to remember, Njoku's had 30 targets in the last 2 weeks. Judy's just been a touchdown machine, so those are going to be the two priorities. You might just want to stick with the guy that, like Warren, in a full PPR is going to get you the guaranteed 10, and if he has a touchdown, gets you 16 plus. So as of right now, that's the direction I'd go with. All right, guys, much love. Appreciate y'all. Have a great rest of your night. I'm queuing the wonderful Double Helix, and until next time, I'll see you guys. Peace. Okay, I'm still here. I will answer 3 more questions. For somebody who stayed around, stuck around to the end of the song, I will happily answer your question. This is our Marvel post-credit, very secret / rare ending for the live stream. Type in your question. Don't make it a 14-paragraph long question, please and thank you. Constantino, what's up, my man? Says, okay, PPR. I need a wide receiver 2 and a flex between BTJ, DK, Pollard, Isaac / Taylor, Aaron Jones. Cool. Yeah, BTJ and Aaron Jones are your 2 plays there as of right now. Michael Hart Jr. says McBride with why the questionable tag. Again, look, as the week goes, I mean, that was the surprise too. Both him and Njoku popping up on the injury report, a little bit sketchy. Let's hope that those are things that are going to dissipate over the course of this week. But as it currently stands, it's considered a knee injury. As to what exactly that knee injury pertains, again, I'm just, we're not privy to that information, unfortunately, at this point. But yeah, let's just hope that that's going to be something that is going to be settled, hopefully. Mikey says PPR Andrew or Mikey in what? I'm so confused. Carlos Ruiz says Otten or Juwan Johnson. Considering it's no longer going to be Derek Carr, I'd probably lean towards Otten there. Ron Beron says secrets, you say? Yes, secrets. Okay, look, I said 3 questions. Why are we sending in super chats? There's no fucking way. What are we doing? The stream's over. I'm leaving. There's no shot. The camera's off. The lights are. What are we doing? Dragon Slayer, thank you. Appreciate it. Much love, brother. Luke C, what's up? Says Cedric Tillman, Nick Westbrook, Ikine, Watson, PPR rank. Yeah, if I was going to rank them for this week, I would go Watson 1, Cedric Tillman 2, Nick Westbrook, Ikine 3. Thank you. Now I have to stay for a couple more questions. Jake Ferguson or Kraft? I'd prefer to play Tucker Kraft. Randall says, damn, I was late. Didn't have any questions this time, but thanks for the help. No problem, Randall. Thank you. Frosty, what's up, my man? It says, I think you should go for more of a... what are you talking about, brother? You think I should be... No. Frosty. I played a little bit of PoE, brother. Witch and just get the Army of the Dead. I'm telling you, there's a build. I played for maybe like 2 hours. There's a build that I'm already working with. Just put up a flame wall and it spawns like a million monsters. I just run around clicking the right click and I do nothing else. I just run in circles, spam clicking the dodge, and everything dies. It's incredible, brother. It's incredible. People are still inside chat throwing cash. Yes, listen, I don't know what to tell you, man. I'm just here to answer a couple more questions. I didn't sign up for that. No, I'm just kidding. Mario, what's up? Says, okay. Jocelyn's, thank you. Appreciate it. Appreciate it. Thank you guys for the kind words. Nathan Dennison says, dropping Chubb. Yeah, I mean, look, at this point, are we ever going to start him? Probably not. The upcoming schedule look like all shootouts. In the event in which he gets a lucky touchdown, sure, we might want to play him. But, I mean, shoot, at this point, not interested. Okay, Farm. What's up, Farms? Let's see here. Let me go back up to your question. Farm says, should I change anything full PPR starting Hurts, Tyreek Hill, Judy, Henry, Dowdle, Hawkinson, more? My bench consists of this. No, I wouldn't change anything. Even if Bucky Irving plays, I wouldn't play him over your alternative options. What you have on roster as it currently stands is the way that I'd go about it, Farm. Scott Myers, full PPR. I have Amon-Ra, DJ Moore, Jerry Judy, and A.J. Brown. Choose my 3 receivers. I'd go with A.J. Brown, Amon-Ra, and Jerry Judy. Pretty comfortably. I mean, honestly, I don't even mind the idea of playing DJ Moore. I just don't know if he's healthy. You know what the problem was? The primary issue with the Bears this most recent week, if I'm not mistaken, hold up. Who's the Bears interim head coach? Isn't it the offensive coordinator? Yeah, it's Thomas Brown. This is the issue. You had Thomas Brown sitting in the box the whole week. Or no. The whole last month of the season, as they made him the new offensive coordinator, he sat in the box comfortably calling plays. Now you have him on the field as the head coach of the team. He has more responsibility now, and in the play calling goes to shit. Like, what are we doing? Why? Why is he the head coach? Like, I get it. He deserves it. You know, this, that, and the other, but come on, man. We need some fantasy points. All right, anyway. Guys, I appreciate it. No, we're not doing an all-nighter. We can't do that. My voice will be chopped and cooked. I appreciate y'all. That'll be it. I'll talk to you guys tomorrow. Much love. What do you eat for breakfast? I don't eat breakfast. I eat nails and shit. I'm leaving. Goodbye. Okay, we're out of here. Good night. Bye. Peace.